Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my bestie Jessica.
So, it's not funny.
You hit me before this started.
I had my eyes closed, I was laughing. It was an accident. I'm not gonna hit you.
I feel like the video says different.
Well, we'll have to watch it later. So, this video is about all of our, what did you call this? The poop we don't like in romance books?
Oh, shit in romance books.
This is the shit in romance books that drive us nuts, otherwise known as our romance book icks. So we're gonna just have a little discussion about the things that drive us nuts in romance books.
Pardon how tired I am. Jessica made me sleep closest to the door while forcing me to read a book about serial killers. And then she slept upstairs in the red light district.
Oh, I'm tired too. I worked the red light district. I don't have makeup on. I apparently worked the red light district. I was not reading a book about hookers though. The book I was reading was...
I was literally reading about the boogeyman.
The one I was reading, she was a killer too. Okay, anyhow, but Mandy says, you said that if somebody broke into our room, you were going to jump over the bed and go lock yourself in the bathroom because I didn't have a lock to my room and then you just left me out there in the open. All right, let's get started with this. So before we get started, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We are still doing our Road to 1K giveaway. We are still giving away free books, so click the like and the subscribe. Follow us on Instagram for an extra entry.
I'm gonna put the free book picture right there.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Okay, so tell me one of your icks. Let's talk about this.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Salivating over cocks. That's weird.
This is what we talked about the other day. Your kids might need to leave the room during this discussion. We're gonna try not to get in trouble here, but it is weird because I'm sorry, but for me, we talked about this the other day. I don't mind. I don't mind in general, but most women, like all of my friends, I shouldn't say most women, a lot of my friends are like, I don't do that. I will not do that. I don't get on my knees. I don't do that.
Even if you like it, salivating over somebody, like, it's just weird. I don't care for it.
No, I'm good. I mean, yeah. I'm good. I do not salivate over it. Like
this book I just recently read, he forces her to go do that to another guy while he watches. Mm-hmm. And she's like all eager about it and salivating. And I'm like, what the? It's just weird.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm sorry. They're not pretty enough to make me salivate. It's not going to happen. No.
Okay, next.
Okay, so in the same context, since we're on the peen.
I already know what this is going to be.
I don't know that you do. Where they talk about it.
Showering?
No.
Oh, okay.
They do need to have a lot more showers in books. But they talk about when an author goes on and on about how it's leaking pre-cum.
Oh, yeah.
And it's constantly leaking, or it spurts it. Or no, it doesn't. I mean, some poor girl is going to read that, be a virgin, and then she's going to go for her first time and be like, how come it's not spurting? Because it doesn't do that. Now, I understand that I understand.
You're talking so loud that people at Dick Truly's room aren't gonna know.
Dick Truly already knows. We're fine. The thing is it doesn't work that way, and I understand that the author has to like show us how excited he is, you know, and that's the way that they're doing it. But at the same time, that's not normal. That's not realistic. If that happens, you should probably see a doctor. And not every guy has that. Not every guy has pre-cum.
Okay, none of my other icks have anything to do with penises.
Oh, I'm sure all of mine do. Do anybody?
So my next one would be when our heroine is a curvy girl, but it's like obsessively mentioned in the book. Like, and that could go for the same but you just don't, when a girl is thin, you don't read about it obsessively. Like, no. Talk about how great looking she is and how he's super attractive. That is totally fine. But when it's constantly thrown in our face that she's overweight or extra curvy, it gets really old.
really fast. It really does. I don't, and like I've said before in some of our other videos, as a girl who has battled my weight my whole life, and I'm actually happy with my body now, but I don't want to constantly have that thrown in my face. I don't want to read about that. I want to picture her the way I want to picture her in my head and, you know, go on. I don't need it.
It takes away from the story.
It really does. And I don't need something. I
myself irritated with the heroine.
Yeah.
Which is dumb.
Which is just sad. One of my big ones is incorrect information as far as pregnancy and just women's health in general.
Oh, yeah.
When they have that wrong.
You have ranted about this before.
So many times. If you're going to have a book about a woman who gets pregnant, do your research. You should know. If you do not know what it's like to have a baby or be pregnant, then maybe you should do some more research. And by research, I don't mean just Googling things on the internet, because what women experience and what is out there are two different things typically. Not everybody is textbook, and I totally understand that. But if a baby's born, typically, this is what drives me nuts. My girls were both born at 36 weeks. None of them had to be in the ICU. There are some that do, but typically around 36 weeks, the lungs are fully developed enough that if a baby comes at 36 weeks, they get to go home. So don't tell me that a 36-weeker is in the ICU unless there's something wrong. Like my niece was born at 36 weeks. She went home. It's just, you know, things like that drive me nuts. Not saying that that's everybody's case, but the majority of people. So, yeah, what else you got?
Okay, I have time jumps, but time jumps as in we're supposed to believe this hero and heroine are madly in love with each other, and then it's like 5 years later. And then they like find each other again. There has to be a really solid reason for them not to be together, and sometimes books fall flat on that, and I started just totally, will you stop assaulting me? Yeah,
put my phone back there behind you. Yeah. Oh yeah. All the violence.
It started to kind of turn me off from books that do time jumps. So then when there is a time jump and it makes sense, I'm like, oh, okay, I can get on board with this. But when there's no real, I need a strong reason of why they need to be apart.
Well, and I just read a book that had a time jump in it this week, and it made sense for the book.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what you're talking about. And I just, why don't you work it out? And I understand that it's because you're giving us a story, but make it more real.
Yeah.
Most people, they're going to work out the crap, you know? They're not just going to walk away for 5 years and never talk to that person. That's not realistic. And not that we ask for realistic situations, but it needs to be believable. Believable.
Are you getting ready to take your sweater off or something?
No.
What's happening over here?
Okay, so one of my big ones, this goes back to the peeing thing.
Oh,
These guys have like giant elephant trunks going on, right? Like my husband would say, round as a can of corn and twice as long. Like that is how these people, just like the authors describe it. So you're turning around and like, why does every book, first of all, have to have an anal scene? First of all, but you're gonna shove that giant thing inside there with no preparation, no lube, because that stuff doesn't work. Don't laugh, it's true. No lube, because they're just gonna use a little bit of what's up front. That is not enough. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm taking applications for a new best friend.
Now, my daughter's informed me of this because I have no clue. Because kids these days can find anything out. They're older teenage daughters. They're like, most people do an enema before they do that. That's not happening in here. So these guys are walking around with poo-poo on the weenie.
I did read an MM where they did that.
Yeah, because you're supposed to. I think you're supposed to. Anal in general doesn't do it for me in books. I don't know why they're all in books, and I know a lot of people do. But the fact that there's no prep, they're just ramming this giant schlong in there. Let's think about this, people. Next.
Okay, back to our more PG-friendly icks.
None of mine really are.
Name dropping in a book. When you have, I've read a couple of books like this, and I read a book that was part of a series, as in their story continued on, and I didn't finish it because I got so tired of, in the first book, of like every time they would go somewhere, it would be there's like 20 other people there that they have to be like, oh, and then so and so and so and so and so and so. And there's one thing about setting us up so that we want to read more about these side characters, but it's another when it's just like overly done and takes away from the story. So as an author, you have to be careful with that to get us hooked and interested in what's happening with side characters without taking away from the main story.
Especially if you're telling us that this is a standalone. There was one that I went into a few weeks ago. It was a convincing, and I went into it and I was reading the very beginning of the book and I was like, this says that it is a standalone. So why am I having, who are all these people at the beginning, and you're giving me a tiny bit of their story, but I feel like I'm missing something. Should I have read the book before it? Because it feels like I should, but you're telling me that I don't have to. But I was getting so confused by all the people that it was talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who are these people? So another thing, this is just a personal thing. And I think this is because I want to believe that my hero and heroine ride off into the sunset and they live long, happy lives and nobody ever dies. So when you do a epilogue and you're showing me that they're old and you're telling me that they died, I hate it. I loathe it, because you take that happy ending of here they are with their family, or here they are living their best lives, and then you're like, oh, and by the way, they got old and they died. Like, it takes away from that happy ending for me, because I'm like, but then they died. You know, an example of this, like, I love The Last Writers and the Last Writers MC, and there's one in there where the couple is like the ultimate couple, and it talks about there's like 3 epilogues in this book, but the very last one is them together, and they like die together, like very, very old, sitting on a bench, and I just, oh my gosh, I have to skip that every time because it just makes me sad.
It's in a book. I won't say what book because it's a huge spoiler, but it's in a book that you and I both love. And it made me cry, but it actually really fit the book given all of the circumstances.
I know what book you're talking about, and that killed me. That killed me. I mean, it fit the book, but that's why I was a sobbing mess. And I don't cry in books. This one got me. Okay, so what's your next one?
Insta-love when I do not see the on-page connection. So sometimes Insta-love can be tricky, and you have to give me something in those first few pages that tells me why these people have Insta-love, or at least one of them has Insta-love for the other person. And sometimes that can be lacking. I have to know why. Yeah. Are we going back to genitalia?
Possibly. Yeah. Okay.
Your mind's like gutter.
No, I have other ones that aren't. Let's not go back to genitalia quite yet. Obnoxious heroines. You can write a strong MC. No, not MC. FMC. Female main character. You can write her strong while still feeling her feelings. Not every female character has to be strong, because there are times in our lives as women that we are not strong and we do need to depend on our friends or our person or whatever. You don't have to have all these strong, sassy heroines drive me crazy. They drive me absolutely crazy, because most of the time the way the authors write them is obnoxious. It is okay to have what some would consider a weak female character who needs a support system. I need a support system. I have a sick kid. Who's the first person I call? You or my husband. You guys are my support system. I am not weak by any means. I need a support system. That's just normal. Muscles. Oh, I don't got muscles there. That's called flab. I can push it up. I can. But I need, you know what I mean? That's just life. We need that. So everybody being like, I hate a weak female main character. You're allowed to feel your feelings, or you're allowed to be weak. It's okay to write a weak female character. A weak as in what they're talking about. As long as it fits the character. Quit writing them obnoxious. When they write them and they're strong and they're obnoxious. Den of Vipers. That girl is obnoxious. She's obnoxious. Horribly obnoxious.
Don't hold back.
I hate that book. Okay, anyhow. Next.
Okay, this is my personal one that probably nobody else is going to agree with me on. I hate the term sweetheart in books when the guy calls the girl sweetheart.
I love it because Dean Winchester says it in Supernatural all the time.
My dad always called me sweetheart, so I feel like it is a father to child name.
My dad called me yellow hair. You remember that? Yellow hair.
Someone's calling you. So this is just, it's me. It'd be like if you have like your husband or your kid's name in a book, it'd probably bug you. So it's me. It's not that. And I know a lot of people don't like baby, but I love it.
Doesn't bother me either. No, doesn't bother me.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, I just have a few more that are all sexual in nature.
Do I take a nap during this?
No, you're going to input during this.
Okay.
Smelling her arousal. Take a shower.
Do you know how many phone calls
Nobody should
get about
smell
this?
that. Nobody should smell that. If they can smell that, you need a shower. Shower more in these books. When he talks about being able to smell her on him, I'm like, somebody needs a shower.
I was at a New Year's Eve
Bacterial
party,
vaginosis, people.
and somebody kept texting me about the need for people showering because
It's gross.
you shouldn't be able to smell that. I'm like, I'm just trying
And
to
then
play
when they
board
talk
games.
about like walking into a room and the room smelling of sex, open a window.
Never, who's this? That's what I should have said.
I'm sorry, it's just gross. It's gross. It's so gross. Good hygiene, people.
This
Good
has been
hygiene.
an issue for you since like I started reading.
I know.
You have been
I know. It
complaining
drives
to
me
about this.
nuts because I'm like,
Don't go
ew.
camping because if you write a camping scene, you have to make sure they shower somewhere. Or Jessica will freak out. That's the
As
first
the
time
avid
I remember
camper,
you
with that Amy Dawes book.
freaking out.
Yes, as an avid camper, please shower. Things can get stinky. Especially, when they have sex. They go to bed, and the next morning he eats her out without...
UTIs, people.
UTIs. First of all, go to the bathroom. Second of all, clean it up, because if he wakes up in the morning and he's going down, that stuff gets smelly.
That's nasty. I'm sorry.
It just...
grosses me out.
Showers are highly recommended.
I actually read a book once where he like picked her up and carried her to the bathroom so she could pee. And
I
he was
love
like,
that.
it's important. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yes.
Somebody finally like talks about the truth here.
And by the way, lube is always needed. Every once in a while we'll get it in a book, but most of the time, no. Lube is needed, especially when you have an older heroine. Lube in general. Who's ready to go all the time? Spit does not work. Lube. I get that it's not as sexy, but come on. I really don't need all my books realistic, but still.
I think it's written that way to show desire.
I think it is. It's still one of those things that I go,
Yeah, but
really?
this is like at the beginning of relationships usually.
Yeah, when you're in your 20s.
So it's
Anyhow, and then when they have like, this is not sexual. When there's no resistance, when you capture that person, like it's a captor-captive, and there's like 1 minute they're like, no, and the next minute they're like, yes, I'm all over him, and it's been like 2 whole days, that drives me nuts. Show some resistance. If you're writing a captive book, there needs to be some resistance. You're not gonna, we were even talking about that yesterday in the car. You're like, if I was kidnapped, I wouldn't just jump his pants, jump his bones. No,
I think I said I wouldn't be salivating.
you wouldn't be salivating.
Because that's what happened in one of the books.
Yes.
Like, that's what I don't get. Like,
There's gonna be resistance, and I don't need it to be extremely realistic. Obviously, we're reading fiction, but there's some things where I'm like, that's no. Just because he's hot.
maybe it gets tiresome because we do read a lot, and so if we were only reading a handful of books like this, it wouldn't be so bothersome.
Maybe.
But it's like after the 300th book.
So, yeah. So that's what I have.
Okay.
Oh, last one.
Oh,
Last one.
lucky us.
If you are writing a motorcycle club romance, they cannot be soft. All these people out there going, oh, it's or he's a teddy bear. No, it is a motorcycle club. They need to be Hell's Angels. You need to think, what's the show?
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy. If they are toys for tots, don't even try. Write something else. It's just, I get it.
My husband has a motorcycle. He's not in a club, though.
No.
He's in a car club, though.
Oh.
He's actually in a couple car clubs.
I'm sorry. It drives me nuts when I go to read a motorcycle club romance and the guys are all soft.
Oh!
What?
This made me think of something. Okay. Cars. When the guy has a car, that I'm a car person, as you know. I have a cool car.
She has a cool car.
If you want to know about cars and want to know what's a cool car,
Mandy has one. Don't call me. I have a Prius. I have good gas mileage.
Jessica pulls up in her Prius
and Mandy pulls up in her hot rod.
My gas goes.
I know. I'm like, I got 40 miles to the gallon. Mandy's like, I got 20.
Yeah, it's bad.
So we live in Washington State. I have to have a Prius.
I love my car.
I know. I love your car too.
Okay, so but we have quite a few. Like my husband has a lot of cars.
Yeah.
It's a problem at my house.
Yeah, it's a
we
car
have
thing.
to live out
I
in
mean,
the country on
considering,
property.
I remember when you were trying to name your kids and everything was car related, I was like,
yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
None of your boys turned out to be Axel, so we're good. That was one of them though, wasn't it? I remember that was with the first one. That was an option.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, anyhow.
Anyway. Don't make fun of Roll Cage, okay? He's a good boy.
Roll Cage? Shifter.
Just joking. Anyway,
Brake pad.
So cars, like it's totally fine to establish that the guy is like male dominant and is driving some cool car. That does not bother me at all. But I read a book where the guy had, I think it was a Hellcat, which Hellcats are very cool. And it was like every time though, it's like I went out to the Hellcat. I did this in the Hellcat. I pulled up in the Hellcat.
We get it. He has a Hellcat.
Like, it was over and over and it was like overdone and it took away. And like I called you and I'm like, oh my gosh, because I am a total car fan. And so I appreciate that in books. I'll be honest, if our male alpha is driving like an electric car, I'm like, does that really fit the personality? Like, I'm all for like save the planet if that's your thing.
But this is fiction.
In my books, I really want that dominant alpha.
In the hot car or the rig. Well, what drives me nuts is that I've read several books.
But you have to do it like it's like the curvy girl. You can't over hound things into our brains.
Yeah.
Like subtle.
And this goes for all authors too. This is in the same context. If you're telling us that he is driving a car, and maybe this is for foreign authors, car and truck are not interchangeable. They're two separate things. So if you tell us he's in a car, and then in the next paragraph you mention it's a truck, we're going to be like, no, those are two. I drive a car. My husband drives a truck. They're two different types of vehicles. So make sure that you have that consistency, or if you're writing and you're a foreign author, just know that doesn't work.
You just have the two vehicles.
We are a normal household. We just have the two vehicles. We will have a third vehicle once the kids get their licenses.
Is that normal?
Yes. Why would you have more than two vehicles? One for each adult. Okay, we've established that. Now, all right, guys. So those are our icks, at least the ones that we could think of. So tell us in the comments below what your icks are, like some of the things that drive you nuts. Right? You want to hear that, don't you? Yes. It'll probably set us off on a whole nother tangent, but please tell us what some of your romance icks are in the comments below.
We probably forgot a lot.
I'm sure we did. They come up when I'm reading, and then I call you and tell you, and then I forget. Something just flew into my eye. Okay, do your spiel.
All right.
Well, I want to pick my eye in front of people.
Okay, make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Oh, okay.
Thanks for joining us in the Red Light District.